Blind Jim, turn down your computer.
Hello?
All right. Are you ready to are you ready to be breviloquent, Blind Jim?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead.
Anyhow, Scott, could you tell us what the Russians, how they perceive Hamas and the current Israeli government?
Sure. I just had a conversation with a Russian official today, and Russia, of course, condemns Hamas' attack on October 7th, their attack on Israel. Russia views Hamas as a terrorist organization. Their actions on that date is terrorism, but Russia doesn't believe that gives Israel carte blanche to do anything they want in retaliation. And the Russian feeling now is that Israel is actually the bigger terrorist threat, that Israel's actions far exceed what Hamas did on October 7th. And so Russia not only condemns Israel, but it labels Israel as a terroristic state and is pushing for a two-state solution, the fulfillment of the Palestinian people's desire to have their own homeland. So that, I think, captures the Russian position in a nutshell.
That was breviloquent, both on your part and Blind Jim's.
Breviloquent.
Paul Spencer, who's near Portland, Oregon. Near Portland. Chechnya is building 100+ homes for Gazan refugees. There are over 1,000 of these folks there now. Could or should the Russian Federation invite Gazans to build a new country of sorts in some southern part of the RF, near Kazakhstan, for instance?
I mean, before Russia does that, I think people should ask the Palestinians if that's what they want. This is sort of modeled on, the early Zionist activities of the Jews who were looking at homelands. I think they were looking in Africa and Uganda for a homeland, and the idea was just anywhere you could get a homeland, you could get a homeland. But they chose the Holy Land because there's biblical links there. The Palestinians, why would they want to live anywhere but Palestine? I mean, that's their homeland. It's theirs. I don't think the Palestinians would agree to a false state, a fake state, a new state that doesn't have any historical relevance.
All right, our first internet outage. And we'll see if we can get Scott back. As I said before, we do have a plan.
But I'm back.
Okay.
I don't think that the Palestinians would go for it. I commend Chechnya for its for what it's doing for Palestinian refugees, but I think the status will be refugee status, which means at some point in time these people will hopefully be returned to their homeland and able to build homes in Palestine.
All right, keep that phone number handy just in case, Scott. Jasmine from the great state of Michigan. I think that's where Blind Jim is also, right? You have previously said that the U.S. will always remain faithful to Israel because of the Israeli lobby. But ever since the genocide in Gaza started, you can see the opinions change, especially among the young generation. So do you think the days of the Israeli lobby and Zionism are numbered?
I'd like to hope so. I'd like to believe so. And I would like, I want it to be that way. But the reality is, Israeli money runs deep. The corruption of the American political system at the hands of the Zionists, of the Israelis, is real. They brag about it, openly brag about it. They're going to spend $100 million to influence the 2024 election. Imagine if Russia just came out and said, "Hey, we're going to spend $100 million to influence the American election." Think anybody would stand for that? Of course not. But Israel's bragging about it. They they openly lobby Congress. They threaten congressional members with being primaried. Imagine again if Russia came in and said, "Hey, if you don't support this, that, and the other thing, we're going to put money in the system and run somebody against you." Nobody would think that that candidate would be legitimate. We'd say that's a Russian candidate. Well, guess what? Most of the candidates that run for Congress are Israeli candidates because they're bought and paid for by the state of Israel. And as long as that's the case, until you purge Congress of this Israeli taint, so to speak, I think that the lobby is always going to have that power and the influence. I'd like to believe that we could find a way to limit it, but I'm not optimistic.
What do you make of South Africa going before the UN court accusing Israel of genocide?
I think it's wonderful. I'm glad South Africa had the moral courage and integrity to do so. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that Israel is a genocidal state. What they're doing against the Palestinians readily qualifies as genocide, and it's wonderful that South Africa has taken this case to the court. The court is hearing the case. 84 pages of unequivocal truth, fact-based truth. In many cases, using the Israeli government's own words against them. You don't have to manufacture a case here. You don't have to use circumstantial evidence. The Israelis have right out, just Israeli officials have said it. There's the soldiers say it. The commanders say it. It's genocide, and I'd like to believe that the court will find Israel culpable in committing genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza.
All right, let's go on to our next question. This is from A Witness in Canada. Did Bernie Sanders just grow a spine by putting forth a resolution to find out if U.S. weapons were misused or not? Or is it a frantic move to distance the U.S. from the coming genocide conviction of Israel for their massacre in Gaza? Bernie Sanders growing a spine? Do you know about this?
No, I mean, I'm hearing about it, but I'll take a witness at face value here that Sanders did this. I don't think he did it because he's trying to do the right thing. He has long been an ardent supporter of Israel. I think he's doing it for political cover. At some point in time, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is going to have to distance itself from the atrocities being committed by Israel. And what Bernie Sanders has done, even though he's technically an independent, he caucuses with the Democrats. And I think that what he's done here is create the beginnings of a political cover of a, as you call it, Jeff, a plan B for the United States when it's time to cut and run from Ukraine because it's a sinking ship and we don't want to go down with that sinking ship.
All right, let's take another phone call.
Because it's a sinking ship.
Turn down your computer. What's your question?
Okay. Well,
Turn it down.
Привет.
You can do
Hello.
it. You can do it. All right. What's your question?
Привет. Привет. Добрый день. Как дела? Scott Ritter for president.
Scott Ritter for president. Okay. Is that it? Is that
I want to toss that. I think it's a realistic goal to get Scott Ritter elected president in 2028. I just want to toss that out.
Okay.
But Mr. Ritter, you have inspired me to study and learn Russian and to begin to read Pushkin and the other great Russian authors. I'm 64 years old, but I'm going to be doing that for the rest of my life. I'd just like to ask you, have you read all of Pushkin? What do you think are his important poems? I gather that Eugene Onegin, is that like the central work where where you get the ideas about the Russian soul? And just any other comments you'd have about Pushkin?
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks
that's
for
my
your
question.
call. Thanks for your call. You can listen to President Ritter address that question on your computer. Thank you. Go ahead. President?
Well, I want to commend you for learning the Russian language and familiarizing yourself with the great Russian authors, and of course, Alexander Pushkin is one of the greatest. Eugene Onegin, of course, as you said. I mean, you know the answer. It is a poem that many people say best describes the Russian soul. I'm lately been reading up on the Bronze Horseman, another epic poem written by Pushkin about the statue to Peter the Great in St. Petersburg. Because if you look at the prologue, it talks about it sort of mocks the Finns and the Swedes. And Peter the Great is building this city, St. Petersburg, in order to protect Russia from these two threats. And when you look at today with Finland having joined NATO, Sweden on the cusp of entering NATO, it just seems to be relevant, and to get Pushkin's insight into the thinking behind the building of the city is, again, I just think there's a lot of important parallels today. But no, you're doing very good. I applaud
Well, do you think
you.
this guy could possibly be the U.S. ambassador to Russia in the Ritter administration?
Well, he could be the U.S. ambassador to Russia in somebody else's administration. I can tell you that the not only the likelihood of me running, but the chances of me being elected are slim to none. So I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I think I do a better job as a citizen ambassador than I would do as a failed presidential candidate.
All right. Well, a 64-year-old guy can dream, can he? For crying out loud. Give him something to live for. Kiki, who claims to be your biggest fan. I don't know about that. How do we measure that? She's, you know what? I think I forgot to change near Portland, Oregon. So disregard that. But anyway, you have said before that Israel is not our ally. Then why does the U.S. staunchly continue to support them, even during times of genocide? There's that G word again. I've been told they give us a foothold in the Middle East. Is this true? If not, then what do they do for us?
They bought us. They own us. You can listen to Alan Dershowitz. He gave a speech the other day where he, talks about the Jewish influence in America, and he doesn't, hide from it. He basically says that, the Jewish people who constitute, a small percentage of the American population dominate, and that they don't need to apologize about it. He brags about how the American Jews are harder working, smarter. They've applied themselves better, and they deserve the right to have this influence. And they not only deserve the right, but they have to have this right in order to, basically get America on board to, the Israeli bandwagon, so to speak. So, but when I say that Israel is not our ally, Israel uses the United States. We're a tool for Israel. So, we're being fooled or lulled into a false sense of complacency into believing that we have somehow a foothold in the Middle East and Israel. Israel doesn't want to give us a foothold in the Middle East. Israel just wants our money. Israel wants the political backing, the veto in the Security Council, etc. But Israel, doesn't want to open up its defense, its national defense, to the vulnerabilities that come with a genuine alliance with America. Plus, Israel spied on us. Who do you think Jonathan Pollard is? Do the research. Man who spied on the United States in the 1980s, took what we called the crown jewels of the intelligence business. The book that lists all of the frequencies that we monitor using our signal intelligence capabilities. And if you know that we're listening to you, if you know that we've broken a code, then you'll change the systems, and the money that we spent in getting into the position where we could listen to that particular communication is wasted money. Jonathan Pollard sold this to the Israelis, and then the Israelis in turn bartered it to the Soviet Union to get more Jews out of Israel. So Israel uses America. They killed American sailors. They attacked the USS Liberty, a flagrant attack, killed American sailors, wounded American sailors, never really apologized for it. Israel continues to spy on us. We saw the AIPAC, the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, back in the late 1990s, was a front for spies. They were liaisoning with the Pentagon officials, and some of the Pentagon officials were giving AIPAC classified information about Iran's nuclear missile program, and then the AIPAC people gave that information to Israel. It's spying, literally spying. So no, Israel's not our ally. I think that there's a lot of propaganda that goes into defining Israel's relation with the United States. Both Israel and the American Jews like to make it out as Israel's our greatest ally, that it's literally the 51st state. But the reality is Israel is one of the worst enemies America's ever had, because they've done more harm to America than many of our acknowledged enemies.
All right, let's take a voicemail message, or play a voicemail message from an anonymous caller.
Hi, Scott. Thank you for answering our questions while traveling through Russia. Now, to my question, I can understand the importance of Mykolaiv to secure Odessa once taken by the Russian army, so that Ukraine does not pose danger to the Russian Navy around Crimea. But can you explain the strategic importance of the further northeast oblasts, Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkiv? Also, does the Ben Gurion project play a role in the recent Israeli incursion into Gaza? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the question. I'll start with the Ben Gurion project. Basically, the Ben Gurion project is the idea that Israel is going to not be held hostage to the Suez Canal, and so they would build their own canal connecting the port of Eilat with the Mediterranean Sea. The plan envisioned extensive use of atomic demolition munitions to basically carve this canal out of the desert. It's a plan that has no chance of succeeding, because no one's going to allow that many nuclear weapons to be detonated underground, or to create these things. So I don't think the Ben Gurion project had anything to do with it, because it's not an active, viable project, at least to the best of my knowledge. So that, the thing is, when you speak of Odessa, and I continue to believe that Odessa will be taken by the Russians as part of their demands when this conflict ends with Ukraine. Vladimir Putin recently has come out and said that Odessa is a Russian city, and he's a man who's very careful with his words. So I'll take him at face value that Russia plans on taking it. And as the gentleman caller mentioned, to take Odessa, you have to go through Mykolaiv, and so they're going to have to take Mykolaiv as well. But now, when you look at those two goals and objectives,
new co-host Yelena, so thanks for all your hard work. We appreciate it. Stay in touch.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
All right.
But I'm fired.
All right. Well, Scott, you missed the coin giveaway. We put the time to good use so that people would have something interesting. Well, it was kind of an odd name that I can't really remember. You know how people always have these weird handles on YouTube and so forth? Or maybe it wasn't even a weird one. Maybe it was just a foreign name, but I don't know. Bacham, something or other? Whatever.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. All right. So let's see. You want to do a couple more questions? Where are we here now? We're still within the hour window. Okay. Let's see where we left off. Claudia Pineda in Ottawa, Canada. According to an article in the Times of Israel, Israel knows the exact location of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. However, according to the article, Sinwar has surrounded himself with a large number of Israeli hostages, which is preventing the IDF from carrying out a strike on him. Do you believe these statements?
No, I don't believe these statements. I think if they knew where he was, they'd kill him. And, the Israelis showed a callous indifference to the fate of Israeli citizens, both those who were taken prisoner by Hamas on October 7th and those who were simply caught in the crossfire. It's becoming apparent that Israel killed the vast majority of the Israelis who died on October 7th. That the Hannibal Directive, which is the name of a directive, a controversial directive that has Israel killing soldiers or hostages before they could be taken back into Gaza to prevent Hamas from using them as leverage to get Palestinian prisoners released, that the Hannibal Directive was in full force. So, no, I don't believe this. So I think if they knew where he was, they'd kill him.
All right, Scott, we'll take you any way we can get you with technical problems. But if you are able to steady your phone, we're hearing the rustling around a little bit. Are you able to steady it or not? Should we just continue?
Well, I'm holding it by hand because
Okay.
I think the problems was that my little stick gig cut off my internet connection by putting pressure on my phone in some way that it shouldn't have. So rather than repeat it,
then we'll just live with it. We'll just live with it then. Okay. Just asking. All right. Ramsey from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Is the West experiencing a weapons shortage that could affect Israel's military capability? The U.S. bypassed Congress again to approve another arms sale to Israel consisting mainly of 155 millimeter shells. However, it seems those shells will be given to Israel unassembled. Is this how shells are normally exchanged?
I'm not somebody who has been involved in the transfer of weapons from the United States to other nations. I will say this, that when I inspected in Iraq, the weapons depots of the Iraqis, they had a tremendous amount of American-made ammunition, much of it which was sourced from Jordan. Because Iraq had some American-made, artillery systems, and the Jordanians were providing them with ammunition, and the ammunition, 155 millimeter ammunition, was stored ready to fire. So I would assume that that's the way that the ammunition is normally delivered, and that the fact that we're shipping them unassembled 155 millimeter shells is just indicative of the urgency of Israel's need, and our again, I don't know the niceties of law. Maybe by shipping them unassembled, they don't qualify as a weapon, but weapons components, and that might play some role in justifying the bypassing of. I don't know, but I don't think that's the way shells are normally shipped.
I can relate to this, Scott, because I need to get a table, a desk for my apartment. And, Amazon has the best deals, but in almost every case, it comes unassembled. I have to assemble it. That is a burden, so I can relate. Brenda in the UK, how protected are the Palestinian burial grounds from the Israel bombings?
They're not protected at all. Israel's taking bulldozers in and desecrating the burial grounds. There's no protection at all. This is part of the genocide. Genocide isn't just the killing of human beings. Genocide is the eradication of culture, of history, of the people as a whole, and that's what Israel's doing. So no, there's no protection at all. Israel is a despicable nation at this point in time because they're doing things that no civilized nation would tolerate. There's a book written called Alpha, and it's about a Navy SEAL, last name Eddie Gallagher, I think his name, Eddie Gallagher. He was a sniper in Iraq, assisting in the fight against ISIS. And the man was just a brutal thug. He would go up and shoot Iraqi school children and then call them ISIS kills. But he was turned in by his fellow SEALs. The trial was a travesty. But what I'm saying is that when a Navy SEAL murdered Iraqi children, the system didn't embrace it, applaud it, give him a medal. The Israelis, they're on video right now. They killed a Palestinian mother who was holding the hand of her son. Both were waving white flags as they were trying to move out of a danger zone, and the Israeli sniper shot and killed her. He knew, looking through the scope, that she was a non-combatant. She was waving a white flag. She was holding the hand of a child, and he shot and murdered her. Nothing sacred. The Israelis have become the worst people on the planet.
Here is a question left by voicemail about the Jewish homeland.
Hi, Scott. This is Sean, Kanda Strike Kanda. I have a question about your notions of the Jewish homeland. You're of the opinion that Israel has the right to exist. That's absolutely fair. You're also of the view that the Jews deserve a homeland, and that history has shown that that should be the case. Now, is this not contradictory to your belief against a supremacist ideology, whether it be in a state or otherwise? That is to say, does a Jewish homeland by itself not necessitate a supremacist nation state or country in which Jews are above all else? And forgive me, this
Fair
is
question.
I mean, no disrespect whatsoever. I actually very much respect your work. I just thought I'd pick your mind on this because I didn't understand it. Thank you and continue your good work. Shout out to Jeff.
Thank you for your question. I will answer it this way. I think we had Eva Bartlett on a while back, and Eva corrected me. I kept talking about a two-state solution as I thought that was the most viable thing, and she said there can't be a two-state solution. And I respect her. She's a woman of great experience. And the more I've studied it, because I admitted, at that time that, I hadn't been a student of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I was late to the game, so to speak. And so there is a lot of evolving thought process going on. And today I'm of mind that there can't be a two-state solution for exactly some of the reasons that you outlined, that it empowers Israel to be an exclusive Jewish-only supreme land. That's not the case. So I agree with you. I think right now that Israel has shown that it has behaved abysmally. I believe now in a one-state solution that can incorporate the notion of Jews living in their historical homeland, but not in a Jewish-only state. And it would have to be peacefully coexisting with other Palestinian citizens, Muslims, Christians, the people of Palestine who have as much of a religious right to live in these lands as the Jews do.
All right, let's take one more question, then let Scott go Betty by. This is from Democracy Brewing in California. I keep hearing that Israel has killed as many women and children in 2 months as Russia has killed in 21 months. Is that true? Has Russia killed 15,000 women and children in Ukraine?
I don't believe Russia has killed 15,000 women and children in Ukraine. So I think that that's a false narrative. Russia, there have been Ukrainians that have died. The United Nations has tracked these numbers, but Russia's been assiduous in their targeting. They don't commit the kind of flagrant violations of international law that that Israel commits on a daily basis. If Russia does target a civilian target, I think it's by error as opposed to being a deliberate act. The Washington Post, Human Rights Watch, and others organizations have said straight up that Ukraine uses its own civilians as human shields, that they put military equipment around, occupied apartments, they put it around hospitals, they put it around protected areas. And in doing so, they are committing a war crime because you're not allowed to use protected persons or protected facilities, for military purposes. So, I mean, what I'll do is I'll go back and research that number just to see where it came from, because it's a very specific number. But I have a feeling that that number might be the total number of civilian casualties in Ukraine, and that the vast majority. And Ahmad Kadyrov said, we can't have Chechens killing Chechens. There's only 1.5 million of them. There's not a lot of Chechens, and their blood feuds are Hatfield and McCoy make the Hatfield and McCoys in America look like child's play, and when you have Chechens killing Chechens, it's a never-ending cycle of violence. And he said it has to stop. And he and Vladimir Putin sat down and worked it out. But you have to understand that this was a deeply religious man. They are Sunni Muslims. They practice a specific branch of Sunnism, Sufism, and you need to understand that to understand the Chechen people. To visit this mosque, which was built in honor of Ahmad Kadyrov, it has become the centerpiece of the faith in Chechnya. It's to understand Chechnya. So I was given a tour by the mufti of the mosque, the head man, and he explained the role of religion. He explained, the very peaceful, nature of religion as practiced by the Chechen people. They don't want war. I mean, they're capable of fighting war, and they will fight ferociously, but they want peace. And the proof is in the pudding. And look at the peace that they've worked out with the Russians. They fought 2 bloody wars with Russians. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed. Entire cities were laid to waste. And yet today, Russia and Chechnya are not just at peace with each other, but those 25,000 soldiers that Ramzan Kadyrov assembled, they're fiercely loyal to Russia and Vladimir Putin because they recognize that Vladimir Putin's leadership, together with the leadership of Ahmad Kadyrov, helped create the reality of modern Chechnya, this thriving community that has rebuilt itself from the ashes. So, and Islam is at the very core of that. And it's you can't understand Chechnya unless you understand Islam. And touring that mosque and listening to the Mufti explain the role of Islam in Chechnya was a very enlightening experience for me.
All right. The next question comes from Anonymous in the Republic of Korea. I believe my country should disband the USFK. That stands for United States Forces Korea, Scott, in case you didn't know, and unconditionally surrender and unify with the DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and our weak economy is overly dependent on I'm sorry, did I skip a sentence there? Let me say that again. I was getting too cute with explaining the acronym. I believe my country should disband the USFK and unconditionally surrender and unify with the DPRK because our military is unable to protect the country from the DPRK and our weak economy is overly dependent on trade with the US, Japan, and China. I believe multi-party liberal democracy is a failure, and single-party socialism advocated by the DPRK is the superior form of government. Do you agree?
Look, I don't agree. I mean, I think, to each his own, I should say. North Korea is a state that developed in the aftermath of the Second World War as a communist state, a Stalinist style communist state, and it's maintained that single party structure, the strong leader. It's had difficulties, primarily, because of what some people would say are the inefficiencies of that system economically, but more recently because of the sanctions that have been placed on Korea. But Korea is in the process of changing that because of what the United States has done in trying to isolate Russia and trying to isolate China. The Chinese and the Russians have struck back with BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa Economic Forum, which is now expanded, has 6 new members, and it's going to get 14 new members this year. It's becoming global in its reach. BRICS is linked to Russia and China, which means now that Russia has opened up economic relations with North Korea, that North Korea has an indirect access to the BRICS economy. And the same thing with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. North Korea's economy is going to be thriving. Growth, growth, growth. And meanwhile, South Korea is trapped in this alliance with the United States and Japan, which seeks to leech the profitability of the South Korean economy off into unsustainable military expenditures. South Korea will never be able to build a military capable of defeating the North Koreans. So the best option is peace. South Korea's got to figure out this on their own, and I think they will. They had a President Moon, that was pursuing peace, but because of the horrible policies of the United States, there's political change or momentum change domestically in South Korea. They now have a hard liner, but he's going to fail because he can't sustain this. So it'll go back, and hopefully they'll find an equilibrium politically that allows them to re-engage with North Korea. And North Korea will come at it from a position of strength. During Donald Trump was trying to exploit North Korea's delicate economic situation by saying, "Hey, we'll beef you up economically if you give up your nuclear weapons." Well, now North Korea has this nuclear weapons program that is strategic in nature, threatens the United States. And because of the open economic relations with Russia and China, they have economic growth potential that's, unmatched. And so I don't think North Korea is going to be, looking for the West to come up with a solution where they're going to do their own thing, and it's going to be the West that's hands and knees to them.
All right. Peace is the best solution. That's maybe a phrase for the ages. Keith in Denmark, do you think the U.S. is lying about Russia using North Korean long-range weapons in order to justify sending Ukraine NATO long-range missiles, i.e. missiles that can strike inside Russia?
No, I think that it was clear. First of all, when you say long-range weapons, it's what the definition of long range is. But it was clear that the Russians had agreed to purchase some North Korean heavy multiple launch rocket systems, and it appears that they have done so. And they're employing these weapons. The idea was to beef up heavy strike capability, and that's what they've done. Russia has some very capable systems. Russia's industry is not going to see that, but I think these are a type of weapon, area of saturation with rocket systems that they can hit deeper in to take out enemy troop buildup areas. It's something the Russians, maybe had a gap in, and so they've filled that gap, and they're using the weapons just like they used Iranian drones, the Geranium-2s, the Shaheeds. The West can nitpick all they want. Russia's kicking the living crap out of the Ukrainians, and it just doesn't matter. The West, no matter what the West does, it isn't going to be enough. Russia has won this war. They're going to win this war. There's nothing the West can do to stop that outcome.
Next question is from, no, that's the same question. Next question is from Violet in the USA. Which country do you think is the main player in the Middle East that has historically prevented things from being totally in favor of the USA and Israel? Which of the countries that have recently said they support Palestine really mean it?
Iran. Iran is the main player in the Middle East that has historically prevented things from being totally in favor of the U.S. and Israel. Iran's backing of first Hezbollah, Iran's backing of the militias in Syria and Iraq, and now Iran's backing of Hamas has been the equalizer. But it's more than equalizer. It's actually tipped the scale in favor of the anti-Zionist coalition, the axis of resistance, so to speak. Iran is the only nation that's put its money where its mouth is. None of the Arab states have done that. So, kudos to Iran.
All right. We seem to have an internet connection. Let's keep our fingers crossed and go for another phone call. Hey there, you're on with our favorite weapons inspector on a shaky internet connection from Russia.
Hello, good afternoon. Calling from New Jersey. My question is, I wanted to ask Scott that Ukraine claimed that they shoot down a Russian hypersonic missile. Is that a true claim, Scott?
There's no evidence to back this up. Ukraine's claimed that it shot down just about everything Russia sent into it, and yet Russia is destroying everything it targets. There's no doubt that some of the advanced anti-air systems that Ukraine has acquired from the West have succeeded in shooting down a number of the geranium drones, but that's the goal. The Russians now have a tactic where they flood the zone, so to speak, with the geranium-2 drones, forcing the air defenses to activate. And then once Russia locates these with their intelligence systems, they strike using other systems to take out the destroy these air defense systems, and then they strike their targets. And this Russian approach has been very efficient. They're devastating the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians themselves have admitted Russia just gutted their defense industry capabilities, and Russia's starting to hit other deep strategic targets. The Kinzhal missile has yet to be shot down. There's no evidence whatsoever that the Kinzhal missile, which is Russia's hypersonic missile, has been shot down by the Ukrainians. When the Ukrainians provide physical evidence, it's not the Kinzhal missile. It's something totally different. So, no, the Ukraine hasn't shot down any Kinzhals.
All right, next question is from Brad Arnold. Much like me, he has two first names in Minneapolis, Minnesota. When the Russian army gets to the Dnieper River, the Duran predicted that Ukraine would fall because of all the vital industry on that vital waterway. I say the West will double their bad bet. How do you think it will go down?
Well, I don't know how the West could double their bad bet. I mean, I don't know what you mean by that. Because let's put it this way. The West, when they provided Ukraine with military equipment, initially they drew down. So they went in, they took weapons that were already built, and they drew them down from their stocks and they gave them to Ukrainians. They don't have any weapons left to give Ukraine. They just don't. So you can't draw down. So the weapons aren't immediately available. Anything that'll come down in the future has to be built, purpose built. So money has to be allocated and resources have to be built. That takes time. That takes years. Ukraine doesn't have it. Ukraine needs weapons right now. These weapons don't exist. So how do you double down on this? This is the decisive year. Ukraine is bankrupt. They have no money. They no money's flowing in. They can't pay any salaries. They have no weapons. They have no new weapons coming in. Denmark just said, hey, we're going to hold off 6 months to give you those F-16s. Why? Because they know in 6 months this war may be over and they're not going to send F-16s out to get shot down for no reason. So, no, I don't think the West can double down. What can the West do? Send in troops? Which troops? Which troops are you going to send? American troops? American troops are going to move into Ukraine? 100,000 of them, 60,000 of which might be combat troops out of Poland. They'll be slaughtered. You will lose a brigade every 3 days. That means that basically in 2 weeks, every American will be dead, and we have nothing to replace it with because we have nothing left. Germany, they don't have an army that can get out of the barracks. The Poles, it's pathetic. They get slaughtered too. Russia's fighting a different style of war right now. It's a drone-based war where drones take the lead. We don't even understand this right now. We don't have tactics to deal with it. We come flowing in with tactics dating back to the 1980s, and the Russians will literally take everything out. So until we redefine our way of doing warfare to meet this new reality, it's like, you could have the finest cavalry in the world, and that might have been good in 1870 or 1880. But in 1914, with the finest cavalry in the world, when you charge forward and they brought out the machine guns, your cavalry got wiped out, got killed. The way Russia deploys drones and employs drones today is the machine gun to NATO's cavalry.
All right, Scott, let's try to get a few more questions in before we do the coin giveaway. And this is the New Year's coin that Scott is giving away to various people in Russia while he's traveling around. And on January 19th at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time, we'll be doing an episode, I believe, from a Moscow studio with Alexander, your host. Is that correct, Scott?
Yep, we'll do a NASA the Inspector, where we will do a wrap up of the of my Russian visit, and I think there will be a lot more interesting things to talk about at that time.
All right. So January 19th at 12 noon. Hopefully we'll do some one or two things between now and then, but I just want to tell people that's already scheduled, and we can pretty much rely on a good internet connection for that episode, at least. Brian Egger in Wales. I remember reading about a year or so ago about how 2,000 ISIS fighters were taken from one of the camps and flown by U.S. helicopters to Afghanistan and close to the Iranian border. What has happened since then, and could this be linked to recent events?
You know, I don't know if there's any truth to that story. It just seems very far-fetched that the United States would use their helicopters to deploy 2,000 ISIS fighters. The reason why I say that is I'm somewhat familiar with U.S. covert helicopter operations, and I know what it takes to do a black helicopter mission. And 2,000 ISIS troops ain't a covert mission. I mean, that is about as overt as it gets. So it's a little far-fetched. And I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories about how the United States created ISIS, and I happen to agree that we did facilitate the creation of ISIS, but it was more of an act of omission as opposed to an act of commission. What I mean by that is we sort of let ISIS happen as opposed to actually create ISIS. And so the idea that we have some sort of command and control authority over ISIS, I'm not buying. What we do is again, we allow things to happen that we could otherwise prevent. And so we let ISIS get away with things that we normally would interdict, but we don't in this case. And we may have other entities being allowed to supply ISIS with intelligence and things that to carry out the attack, for instance, that they carried out in Iran, or they claim to have carried out, but they would have done that in concert with CIA-controlled resources in Iran, but not with direct CIA. I mean, I don't think a CIA person met with an ISIS person. I think a CIA-controlled Iranian resource was given permission to work with ISIS to do this, but the CIA sort of went, we're hands off on this one. I hope that answered the question.
All right, let's take another question. This is from Alex G. in Los Angeles. Would you please evaluate the possibility of Iran possessing a conventional first strike capability against Israel's ground-based nuclear forces?
I had a discussion with an extremely senior Iranian government official, maybe the highest level of Iran, and we talked about Iran's conventional deterrence. I spoke about how the world is fearful of a potential Iranian nuclear program, et cetera, and I brought up the importance of conventional deterrence, and does Iran seek to possess that? And the short answer was yes. Iran, in pursuing its ballistic missile capability, is pursuing a deterrent capability. To have the hypersonic, long-range hypersonic strike capability gives Iran first strike potential against Israel, against the United States, against United States forces in the region. Are these weapons strong enough to take out the Israeli bunkers where these weapons are stored, or the silos? I don't know. I think their weapons are more geared towards striking other strategic targets like government targets, infrastructure targets, etc. On the belief that that's what's going to deter Israel, the certainty that Israel would be destroyed through conventional weapons as opposed to trying to preemptively destroy Israeli nuclear weapons. Because understand this, Israel has submarines as well. Those submarines are equipped with cruise missiles that have nuclear warheads. So even if you take out the ground-launched missiles, you're going to get nuked. So the idea is to convince Israel that even if they fire a nuclear weapon against Iran, that Iran has enough conventional power to physically destroy Israel. Therefore, the balance of terror offsets one another.
All right, let's do a phone call and then the coin giveaway. Hey there, you're on with our favorite weapons inspector. What is your very concise question?
Hi there. Calling from Germany. I'm a big fan, and I want to thank you both for this great job that you guys are doing. Thanks a lot. I have 3 questions.
No, one question.
Okay, Kidira. I felt, did he have did he suffer embarrassment because of the fact that he exposed his weakness in the public about, trying to get his family off? I mean, I felt very bad also that Scott was in that position. But how do you feel about it, and will it have repercussions for him that he tried to do that?
Okay, thanks for the call.
I think he's talking about the list of Ukrainian prisoners of war. Is that what he's talking about, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what he means.
Yeah, look, first of all, I don't think Kadyrov suffered any embarrassment from it. It is what it is. I'm not going to get into trying to second guess or anything. I was graciously received by Ramzan Kadyrov, by the entire Chechen leadership. I don't believe they were trying to set me up. I believe that they thought that there might be some utility in what they were doing, but it became clear, both from my standpoint and from theirs, that this was not going to happen, and that's that. Kadyrov, what's there to recover from? It's over. It's done with. He's still the leader of the Chechen Republic. He's revered by the people of Chechnya, and I don't believe he suffered any dire consequences because of this. It's a minor hiccup in what was otherwise a fantastic meeting.
All right. As promised, the New Year's coin, a special limited edition made for Scott's trip to Russia. And that's what it looks like. It comes with a card. And we are going to do a giveaway right now for everybody who entered on... Hold on a second. Where is it? Why does this keep happening? Hang on, I'll find it again. Share screen. Okay, there it is. All right. So 570, as I'm speaking, even more entering, 580 people have entered this time, Scott. I think that's the most entrants we've ever had.
That's a record. That's a record.
It is indeed. This people love, they're lusting for this coin. All right, let's do the drawing to see who the winner is. And it's Lorraine Taleng Safi. Congratulations, Lorraine. Send us an email, info@ustourofduty.org, so we know how to send the coin to you. Thanks to everybody who entered. And if you would like to buy, well, we're not yet selling this coin, but
say that I don't know enough about the question to answer it properly, because I don't know if he's talking about domestic counterinsurgency, because that's a law enforcement thing and I'm really not that familiar with it, or there's Lauren doing the happy dance, and or if it's a military thing. So I can't answer the question. I apologize.
All right. Better to say you don't know than to fake it. Theo in France, there have been recent reports that North Korean rockets have been used by Russia in attacking Ukraine. Is this Russia simply being pragmatic at the moment, Or is there a military codependency developing between these two nations? You didn't use the word codependency, but you kind of alluded to this a few minutes ago.
Well, first of all, Russia will never be codependent with anybody. One of Russia's foreign policy objectives is self-sufficiency, and that's self-sufficiency across the board. So Russia will never be codependent, but understand that Russia is in the process of expanding its military from 900,000 to 1.5 million. So these are new formations being built up at a time when they're in this very intensive combat operation in Ukraine. And so, you know, as Russia builds up, for instance, the 70,000 strong St. Petersburg military district, or reinforcing Arctic operations, or the Pacific, or, you know, beefing up their presence in the Caucasus or in Central Asia, or, you know, getting forces, you know, prepared to, you know, deal with any threat from the Baltics, weapons that would, you know, that could be sent to the front in Ukraine are being diverted to build up these new units. And so you're building up these units for long-term employment by Russia, which means you want the Russian equipment. When you have a table of organization equipment, TONE, it's going to be Russian equipment. But on the front, to meet firepower requirements, rather than, you know, slow down the deployment of weapons to these new units that you built, what they're doing is they're just plugging the gap with these North Korean weapons. It's a weapon of convenience. Russia will just bring in these North Korean weapons, and they're ready to fire. They're a unit. You bring them in. It ain't hard to do. You push a button, you salvo off stuff, you reload it, and that's that. And when the war's over, they can go ahead and put these, you know, systems in reserve, or they can scrap them or whatever. They're not going to need them. They're just they're a temporary solution, firepower solution to you know, the military problem in the you know, against Ukraine. But the real Russian weapons, the tornadoes and things of that nature, are going to these Russian units. So some are going to the front lines, but, you know, Russia needs a lot of firepower right now. This is a temporary fix to a temporary problem.
MC in the United Kingdom is our next question, our next questioner, I should say. How can the U.S. really say there's no evidence of genocide in Gaza? Do they have a special definition that excludes the destruction of the homes of an occupied people, or that can induce death by starvation, pestilence, and thirst?
Apparently we do have our own definition. It's an Israeli linked definition, meaning that anything that Israel does cannot be, by definition, genocide. It's funny how during the Battle of Mariupol in Ukraine, Russia was accused of committing genocide against the Ukrainians with these false allegations. They accused of, you know, cutting off water, cutting off this, destroying that. All the things that Israel's doing for real, and magnified by, you know, several orders of magnitude. But with Russia, we threw that word genocide around freely. With Israel, we won't allow it to enter the lexicon. But the bottom line is Israel is committing genocide. It's a matter before the International Court of Justice. And Russians who fought in Mariupol, fought in Bakhmut, are looking at the tactics that the Israelis are using in Gaza and saying they'd all die. If you took those Israelis and put them in Bakhmut or Mariupol, they'd all die. Now, I know that they're not fighting, you know, a large conventional army, but their tactics suck. They suck. And it's not just that they're bad soldiers. They're bad people. Now we come to what Larry talked about. The murder of those 3 Israelis proves that the Israeli army has shoot to kill orders. And you know what's interesting about that? It's a war crime, a literal war crime. You're not allowed to do this, but they do it. They have a doctrine called the gospel, or not a doctrine, but a plan called the gospel plan, the Hasbara plan. It's AI generated. They've broken Gaza down into, you know, target packages determined by a computer that says, when you drop a bomb on here, this is how many civilians you kill. Why the hell do you need to know how many, or predict how many civilians you kill? And then you drop the bomb anyways, because your whole purpose is to kill civilians. That's what the Israelis are doing right now. And here's the sickest part. Joe Biden is giving them a green light to kill as many Palestinians as they can up until the end of the year. And that's what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Not because Israel thinks they can defeat Hamas. They can't. They know Hamas is going to survive this conflict. What they're trying to do is terrorize the Palestinian people so much that when this is over, the Palestinian people will never let Hamas do an October 7th again. And it's going to backfire because the Palestinian people have rallied around Hamas like they've never rallied behind them before. If there was an election today in Palestine, Hamas would win across the board. 76% support right now. That's amazing. You can't destroy them militarily. Politically, you've empowered them, and the Palestinian people are behind them. This has backfired like you wouldn't believe on Israel. And Israel's suffering what I call a strategic defeat right now. And if they're not careful, the whole solution was always, the solution, the school book solution was always a two-state solution. Everybody talked about two-state solution. Oslo was premised on a two-state solution. Well, Netanyahu has just admitted that he was never going to let that happen. He's been sabotaging it from day one. And the Israeli behavior right now, no one can ever trust Israel again. Israel has destroyed its reputation. It is a disgusting, despicable, genocidal regime that will never change. The day of Yitzhak Rabin is over. He was assassinated by a Netanyahu supporter, and Israel has fundamentally changed. I think Israel's talked itself into a one-state solution, and it ain't the one that Israel thinks it wants to have. Because I honestly believe what Israel's done is guarantee that in a decade there won't be an Israel. There'll be a Palestine. Jews will be welcome to live in there. But you'll find that when the Palestinian state is created, that many of these Zionists will flee because they don't want to live in peace with Palestinians. They are what I call the Brooklyn Jew class. And I don't mean that there's nothing anti-Semitic in that. Brooklyn Jews, that's it, class of people who feel free to fly into Israel and go to the West Bank and murder people and steal their homes and steal their land. And when confronted about it, they say, that's what we get to do. The courts back us up. The soldiers are there. These are Americans who go to Israel to murder Palestinians and steal their land. They aren't going to stay in Israel. They're going to try and come back to America. I'd like to believe that we pass laws that say you're not welcome back here. You're on your own. But it's over for Israel. I think Israel has talked itself out of existence. That's the real implication of this fight.
You know, if you went back to October 5th and you had done a survey of the Arab Muslim countries in the Middle East, you'd find that Hamas was not very popular in Egypt. Hamas was not popular, not much support in Saudi Arabia at all. Ditto for Jordan and for Turkey. What Israel has done in the last 3 months is they've turned Hamas into a sympathetic figure, or at least one that the Egyptians, the Saudis, the Jordanians, and the Turks have to pay attention to. If for no other reason, just to placate the guy in the street that's really upset by what they're seeing Israel do to the Palestinian civilians. So it has actually made Hamas stronger. That's the irony of this. It's made Hamas stronger, not weaker. And, you know, Israel's got this in their mind. They think that they can always kill their way out of something. And it's like they decided, I think it wasn't Netanyahu just announced that maybe they were going to do like Munich 2. You know, in the aftermath of the Munich Olympics, they sent out hit teams to kill all the perpetrators. Well, you know, number one, it was basically a failure as a mission because they killed a waiter up in Norway who wasn't even involved, had nothing to do with it. And they didn't get them all. And when the operation was over, it didn't stop the terrorist attacks. So, I mean, the goal of using force is ultimately to stop the attack. You know, I'm a firearms trainer and I teach people, you never draw your gun and point it at someone unless your life is in imminent danger. And then if you have to point your gun and fire, but make sure you stop the threat. Once the threat's over, gun back in the holster. Well, Israel's never learned that. This policy of killing civilians it's going to cost them. It's bad when a friend of mine, she's Jewish, she's a daughter of a Holocaust survivor. And I was at her house 2 nights ago. They had sort of a holiday party. And she comes up to me and whispers, she goes, I'm watching what's going on over there. And the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians what the Nazis did to my mother. You know it's bad when you got a Jewish lady who's a Holocaust survivor who's making that comparison.
Yeah. Well, if you could, and Scott, maybe I can have you come back in here, the ramifications of what Israel is doing has obviously spilled over well beyond the Gaza was called an enclave, but that part of Palestinian territory. And now there is increasing tensions around the Red Sea, with Yemen's Ansar Allah getting really deep in waging a blockade that's been pretty successful to this point in response to what's happening in Gaza. But of course, there's more with Hezbollah, and there have been, I feel like there's been more and more tensions regionally. And Israel is talking about trying to get the U.S. to help them push Hezbollah back along the border. Help us make sense of the regional ramifications and where this is going as we enter 2024.
Well, first of all, let's reflect back on Nasrallah's speech that he gave, I think, on October 9th, 2 days after. And I call it the escalation management speech. And because everybody's expecting Hezbollah to jump in and join the fight. And Hezbollah basically said, we're in, but our way. We're going to do it our way. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it that way, because how is Israel going to be strategically defeated here? Israel set the parameters of victory being the destruction of Hamas. I think Larry and I agree. Hamas is won. They're not going to be destroyed. So Israel's already lost this war. Plus, if you're Hezbollah, your goal is the creation of a Palestinian state. So you got to keep the whole world's focus on that problem set, and it's working against Israel. The whole world is rallied behind it. The last thing you want to do is expand this conflict, because now suddenly the Palestinian issue is not the only issue. In fact, it's going to be put on the back burner as you deal with bigger regional issues like war with Iran. That's a bigger problem set than the Palestinian issue. So you don't want to expand this conflict. So you've seen a lot of escalation management, but it's been done very cleverly. Hezbollah, for not wanting to get involved, has tied down one half of the Israeli Navy, 1/3 of the Israeli Air Force, 1/4 of the Israeli Army. They forced 70,000 people to be displaced out of northern Israel, putting a huge burden on the Israeli economy. And they're just humiliating the Israelis on a daily basis on the border. And here's the thing. You think Hamas has tunnels. Hezbollah has tunnels, better tunnels, deeper tunnels, longer tunnels. You know that tunnel that the Israelis dug up? It's amazing. Right at I think it's the Eretz crossing. And suddenly 400 meters from the crossing, how far along are we? 70 some odd days in this conflict. And they go, oh my God, the biggest tunnel imaginable that you can literally drive a car through is right here. Wait a minute. You guys didn't find that tunnel until now? That tunnel is small compared to the tunnels that Hezbollah has carved into northern Israel. When the time comes, Hezbollah will seize northern Israel. There's nothing the Israelis can do to stop it. They will take Kiryat Shimona. They will take other towns. They will take the Galilee. Israel can't stop them. But Hezbollah doesn't want to do that right now. Hezbollah has let it be known that they can do that, and they will do that if called upon. And this is why you're seeing Israel hesitate, because you've got all the chest thumping guys saying we need to go in and kick Hezbollah's butt. Israel proved that they can't kick Hezbollah's butt. They tried it in 2006. Didn't work. Hezbollah has gotten even better. They've become combat hardened with a decade plus experience in Syria. So there's nothing the United States can do. What, you think American pilots and American airplanes dropping American bombs are going to do a better job than Israeli pilots and American airplanes dropping American bombs? No. First of all, our pilots aren't that good anymore. We just don't train that well. Training is expensive. When was the last time we did a real honest to God, air attack against somebody with an integrated air defense, or somebody has the potential of doing that?
Yeah.
Not in a long time. Our pilots don't know how to fight. And so we'd be going through a learning curve that'd be unreal. And then we'd get humiliated because it's not stopping anything. And you think Americans, when Hezbollah moves into northern Israel, you think Americans are going to drop bombs on Kiryat Shimona? You think Americans are going to drop bombs on Israel? Ain't going to happen. See, Hezbollah isn't going to sit in southern Lebanon and let the fight come to them. Hezbollah is going to take the fight to northern Israel. And now the Israelis are going to have to bomb their own cities, bomb their own people. America will stay out of that fight because we are not going to bomb Israel. Hezbollah's thinking. They know this. If I know this, Israel knows this. America knows this. That's why I'm not too worried about an expansion of the fight, because Israel knows they'll just get, I was going to use a bad word, they'll get beat up. Now we come to the Houthi. You know, this is very rude of me, but every time when I think of the Houthi, I just think of, you know, some wild dudes from Mad Max, you know, you know, just yelling charge and go, because they just sort of on October 19th they just appeared. The Houthi just woke up and said, "Screw it, launch!" And everybody's like, "What the heck just happened?" The Houthi just fired on Israel. Did that really happen? Houthi, hell yeah, that happened. We're going to do it again. Launch, launch, launch. And then they say, "Screw it, take a ship, fly helicopters out there, take everybody." Go, what the hell's going on? What are the Houthi doing? And then the Houthi just say, "We're going to shut it all down," and they have. They've effectively closed I can't say the word, the Man el Bab Straits, that little narrow piece of water between Yemen and Djibouti. You know, they've shut it down. The Red Sea, you can't go to the Suez Canal right now because the Houthi have shut it down. And now America's going, what do we do? So we're moving a fleet down and we're realizing we can't do anything. Now, the big news isn't that America can't beat the Houthi. I mean, we can't. And we're not going to. To secure those straits, we'd have to put 40,000 Marines on the ground. We don't have 40,000 Marines to put on the ground. We can't get 40,000 Marines there. And once we get them on the ground, we can't sustain it. There's 100,000 plus Houthi out there. We ain't going to beat them. Saudi Arabia's been trying since 2014 using American planes with American bombs, using American intelligence. Hasn't worked. The Houthi can destroy Saudi Arabia's oil production capacity. That's one big thing here that's causing everybody to hit pause on that. Saudi Arabia is like, you guys are going to do what to the Houthi? Pause, 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 please pause, because they're going to blow up the Aramco oil fields, and we don't want that to happen. The United Arab Emirates going, wait a minute, you're going to do what? No, we don't want to have anything with that either. Pause, 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 because they don't want to lose their oil production capacity either. So America's sitting there going, But here's the big story. It's not about that strait. You know how America has been saying for decades, we guarantee that the Strait of Hormuz will be open? That Iran will never shut it down. That if Iran ever tries to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the American Fifth Fleet will keep it open. That's just been proven to be a lie. Yeah. Because we can't beat the Houthi, and we damn sure aren't going to beat the Iranians. What this proves is that America's fleet, all of its, dozen, aircraft carrier battle groups, can't do anything. Yeah. It's a waste of money, total waste of money. We have to be careful about getting sunk, losing a carrier. As Larry said, I'm an American taxpayer. Okay, so I got the USS Carney out there, the Aegis class, Arleigh Burke class destroyer. It's got 90 missiles, SM-2s, SM-6s, other things out there. And each one of them runs between $1.1 and $4 million each, depending on which missile you use. The Houthi have thousands of these drones and cheap missiles. They cost them $2,000, $5,000, maybe $10,000 for the good stuff. And the Houthi are just sitting there again. Oh, the guy from Mad Max. Oh! And they're going to launch these things. And the Carney's going to go detected, launch, shot, detected, launch, shot, detected. And now they're done. They fired off 90. And as Larry said, they don't have the tenders anymore. You can't bring up the ship that goes resupply in. They got to pull the Carney out. And then who's going to replace the Carney? Some other funky named ship that's going to fire off 90 missiles and have to go, and another one and go. There's only so many, missile destroyers in a carrier battle group. And when they deplete this stuff, the carrier's got to go because it can't stay there. Something's going to hit the carrier. And now here's the other thing. What have the Ukrainians been using that's driving the Russians crazy in the Black Sea? The underwater drones. The underwater drones. Well, Russia captured some of them. And I don't know if you saw it, Larry, but Russia just published photographs saying, we've just produced our own underwater drone.
And Russia has really good relationships with the Iranians. So I guarantee you that if Russia produced an underwater drone, the Iranians are producing an underwater drone. And if the Iranians produced it, the Houthi have it. And so we're going to be sitting there going, shoot down missile, shoot down missile, shoot down missile. Holy shit, bad word again. Got to watch out. Got 20 underwater drones coming at me. It's over, ladies and gentlemen. We lost a carrier. 5,000 Americans are dead. This is the reality of the carrier battle group. It's a legacy system going back to World War II that has no application in modern warfare whatsoever. America has been exposed as literally the empty shell that we are. It's not so much about the Red Sea. The Strait of Hormuz has just been guaranteed. We just lost the Strait of Hormuz because the whole idea of the Strait of Hormuz was the perception that America could do something. Well, that's been exposed as a lie. So the Iranians are empowered. The Saudis and the UAE is going, I think it's time we have to rethink our strategic relationships here because America can't defend anything. The whole aspect of what America was doing with power projection was the potential of action that creates deterrence. We don't have the potential of action. Where can we go, Larry? Where can we go? We can't go into Europe. We've proven that. Yeah, we can't defend the Red Sea against the Houthi. We think we want to hook and jab with the Chinese in the Pacific. Are we high? America's been exposed as a nation that spends $1 trillion a year on a military that can't do anything.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, again, I had not really focused on the capability of the destroyers, their limited capability. It had never entered my mind to explore the concept of a expeditionary navy vice a forward-based navy. I made some assumptions that were completely wrong. And once you wake up to it, and again, I hadn't even thought about the Strait of Hormuz until you pointed it out. You're absolutely right. You know, the tactic is real simple. All any country has to do is assemble 300,000 drones capable of launching some sort of explosive device that can create damage on a maritime vessel, and then launch them in swarms. You're going to overwhelm the defense systems that the U.S. Navy has, and again, none of this is classified. It's all it's wide open, and then you can start sinking ships. Now, the Chinese. Everything the United States is doing out there off the coast of China is just ridiculous. The United States is trying to pick a fight that we can't even win. We can't even finish it. So, one of the articles I linked to into my piece was called "Rebalance the Fleet Toward Being a Truly Expeditionary Navy." That was eye-opening. And that was just published in September of 2023. So what we've got is the phrase I've used before. The United States has the most expensive military in the world. We've got one of the most expensive, least capable navies in the world. That's the shocker. And Scott, what do you think? Why do you think they're delaying? Yeah, I mean, at this point, Yemen has done everything that in normal times when we thought we had an expeditionary navy, we would have already launched. And we're not launching. Why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, because again, it's if you went in the ring with Mike Tyson, all right, you're expecting
I'd be out of breath from running.
Yeah, when he hits you, you're expecting to die. So imagine you're going in the ring with Mike Tyson, and oh God, and he just lines up and he hits you, and it's nothing. You're like, what the hell? Hits you again, nothing.
Yeah,
you hit him, he's hurting. You're like, I got this. See, America's Mike Tyson, but without the punch.
Yeah,
we've all hyped up. I likened it earlier. When I played football in college, all the linemen, I was a tight end, but I was originally a wide receiver, so I was a very small tight end. All the linemen, go in there and they bench press, and they all got the 300-pound club, the 350-pound club, the 400-pound club in terms of their bench press. I never got above 2 1/4, so I didn't earn any of the big T-shirts. But they're all out there. But it's like a guy that in college, is pumping up. He's got the 400-pound club. And now he comes back to the 10-year reunion. and he's got the 400-pound club T-shirt on there, and he's bringing people into the gym, and he's like, everybody's expecting him to lift 400 pounds, and he gets up to 250, and then he stops, and he starts talking and drinking water. You're like, well, where's 400? Can't do it anymore. That's America.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at expecting the 400-pound club, and you got a guy that can't bench 2.25 anymore. That's America. We don't want to act, because the second we act, we're exposed as a fraud, and all that deterrence goes away. Again, coming back to what Tony Blinken said, we have to deal with China from a position of strength. He just said that. But a position of strength means that we have to have the perception of capability. If we expose the fraud that we are with the Houthi, because Larry, again, mobile relocatable targets. That's a fancy way of saying mobile missiles. I did that during the Gulf War. That was my thing. Hunting scuds. We didn't kill a single one. Didn't know how to do it. And we haven't gotten any better. And so we're going to engage now in a very expensive air campaign against the Houthi, and we're not going to kill anything. They're going to keep launching, and it just exposes us as a fraud. And the whole idea of this potential is to intimidate the Iranians into saying, don't begin with us because you think you have mobile missiles, but we have the American Navy that's very good at hunting. Oh, wait a minute. We just couldn't even deal with the Houthi. So I don't think we want to pull this trigger, because the moment we pull the trigger, any pretense of American capability is gone. Yeah. The other thing is, this coalition we've assembled ain't much of a coalition. It will fall apart instantaneously. And then the most important thing is, what happens when the Houthi take out the Saudi oil fields? We don't have an answer to that. So I think, we've done a lot of bluffing. The smart thing for the United States at this point in time would be literally, look, we made a decision. We're going to let the Israelis kill as many Palestinians as possible. So the smart thing to do is just tell Israel, suck it up for a couple weeks, kill as many Palestinians as you want to, and then come January, you got to let the humanitarian goods, because all the Houthi say is, we'll stop the moment you let humanitarian goods come into Gaza. Mm-hmm. Stop the killing, let the humanitarian goods in, and we will open this baby up. But what we're going to do now is empower the Houthi to come up with different terms, because now the Houthi look around saying, wait a minute, we could ask for more. It's like doing one of those business negotiations, and you find out that, you low bid and you could have gone for more. The Houthi are finding out that they have more leverage than they possibly, and they're still backed by the Iranians now, who are going to be empowered. This is a game. I use that term all the time. It gets me in trouble, but it's a game-changing thing that's going on right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, and look, the other day, the Houthis, they shot down a Reaper drone, a $30 million ISR platform. And I'd love to know what they shot it down with, how much money they actually invested to shoot down a $30 million drone, but I'll be willing to bet it was less than $500,000, which that's a pretty good return on investment. Yeah. And, I think that has to also be weighing on the military planners' minds that as Scott noted, one, we don't have the staying power. Two, when we have to pull out, it's going to make us look weak. Three, we're not even sure we can put ISR safely up in the area to find out where they're located, so we know what we're shooting. So it's not an easy task, and these damn Houthis, boy, they just won't cooperate. They won't put together fixed military bases that we can easily target. How dare they? Don't they know about that international based rules order? They're ignoring the memo.
Right. With Operation Prosperity Guardian, as the United States is calling it, Scott and Larry, I think you're alluding to and directly stating this point altogether, that the U.S. military is pretty hollowed out. It's bark, no bite. But at the same time, this is quite the bark. This is a coalition of the willing. Last time that happened in this particular conflict, it was a Saudi-led U.S. from the rear coalition that did wage a pretty disastrous and very genocidal hell on Yemen. That's not happening right now. And you're saying that it's probably not, there's probably not going to be a major strike. So why then even form this coalition, and what will happen? Because can it just sit and play at war like they do in the South China Sea, for example? Is that what's going to happen? I mean, it does baffle my mind a bit that all of this trouble is being spent on something that has absolutely no bite.
Well, look at what they sent. Canada's contribution, 3 staff officers. Britain, they've sent a ship that hasn't been able to get out of dry dock. And they're really worried that it's going to break down while it's out there in the Red Sea, and they're going to be spinning around in a circle, not able to do anything. This thing's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah. Again, it just come down to, I'm going to huff and I'm going to puff and I'm going to blow your house down. But we can't blow anything down, and we're huffing and puffing. And if you're going to say you have a capability, you should be prepared to do it. You should be prepared to follow through. The United States, I think, look, politics is a funny thing too. And Biden, somebody may make the decision to initiate a bombing campaign just because we have to do something, but it will be disaster because we can't sustain. It's very expensive to bomb. I just want people to understand that, sorting out the number of aircraft that we're going to have to sort out with sustained sorties, the fuel, the wear and tear on the aircraft, the bombs, keeping that air carrier in play, shooting down all the Houthi drones are going to be coming at them. We're going to bankrupt ourselves, and we can't keep that force in play. Hopefully, we don't lose anything. But the real thing is that we're going to find out. The Houthi will find out that we can't beat them. And then the world realizes they can't beat them. This is why I think they probably won't do it. But politics is strange. We are entering the really silly season of American politics right now. And Joe Biden's sort of in a desperate, he lost Afghanistan. He's lost Ukraine. He's losing Israel. Now you got the Houthi, which means you're going to lose Iran, which means, and China's watching this too. Basically, what we're doing in Israel is, in what we've done with Ukraine is, in a very short period of time, we've gone from the world's preeminent superpower to the laughing joke. That doesn't mean we can't kill people. Of course we can kill people. We can kill a lot of people, but we can't win. And that's the thing. We can't close the deal anymore. Yeah.
Now, can you imagine being a Chinese intelligence analyst in February of 2022? And you were asked to assess the ability of the United States to produce and supply 155 millimeter artillery shells. I suspect that Chinese analyst, or the Russian analyst for that matter, would have projected a far greater capability with respect to what the United States could do. And that would have created some caution. And now, once they've seen with their own eyes that the United States can't do it, we can produce maybe in 1 year what Ukraine would fire in 1 month. And so all of a sudden these countries, Scott, it was a great analogy that we had built ourselves up like the great and powerful Wizard of Oz. And it turns out we're just a short little fat guy behind a curtain that a lot of the stuff we claim we can do, we can't do. And then the real sort of audacity is we've got U.S. military planners instructing the Ukrainians on how to fight a peer-to-peer war. Now, that's like going to some guy to learn how to shoot a rifle, and the guy's never shot a rifle. So you don't want to take rifle shooting instruction from somebody that's never shot a rifle. And, the reality is there's nobody in the world that's fought a peer-to-peer battle except for Russia now. And they've got ample experience doing it. And because when you read back one of the postmortems that the Washington Post did on why the counteroffensive failed, I was stunned that when they did the exercises beforehand, they did war gaming, tabletops. They left out the assumption about, well, you don't need fixed wing aircraft to provide close air support. And you don't need that rotary wing aircraft either that can also provide close air support as well as evacuate wounded for the battlefield. We'll just take those out of there. Hello? I mean, that's like saying, yeah, I'm going to go drive the car on the freeway, only I'm going to put on a blindfold, see how I do. You're going to crash. So, I mean, it's just, this is what the failure of the U.S. military across the board, it's not just one thing. It's a layered problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. See, we got a visitor. No, it is. And maybe to close, I've kept you almost for 2 hours now. So maybe to close, any final thoughts? We can begin with Scott on prospects geopolitically. 2024, where are things headed? Where is the U.S., I guess we call U.S. NATO axis, where is it headed, and where is the rest of the world headed? What can we expect? Huge question, but just want to kick it to you, Scott, to close, and then Larry, final word.
Well, I think you're going to see that the United States is, Larry talked about the rapid, can't remember, the devolution or devolution of Ukraine. I think we're going to see the rapid devolution of the United States. Because again, how quick, Larry brought up a wonderful analogy, the Wizard of Oz. I just watched it again because, it's that time of the year. But at the beginning, the wizard is everything. The wizard, you're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And when they first see him, oh, I'm the great and powerful wizard. And then suddenly the devolution of the wizard, all you had to do is have Toto come in and pull the curtain back, and you realize that all of that was fake. None of it was real. Toto's done pull the curtain back. The world's seen how fake America is. I don't think we have gotten this far because we've been bad for a long time. We've been rotting from the inside, but we've gotten this far based upon reputation, and arrogance, and people have been buying into the bluff. The bluff's been called by the Houthi. The bluff's been called by everybody, Russia. So I think the world is going to go through a very rapid transition. Russia's in charge of BRICS this year. This ain't going to be passive. I mean, China had BRICS, and they were very good, but there was only a limit. At that time, you still believed in America's potential. I think America is going to not collapse, but we are going to be de-emphasized on the world stage. The world's tired of us. Israel broke our moral authority. Ukraine broke our military potential. We're going to have to redefine ourselves, and this may take decades. But in the meantime, Russia has redefined itself. China, we haven't talked about China. China is sitting there like this huge economic engine that we don't appreciate. Just like we don't appreciate the size of Russia and the potential of Russia, China's big, man. China's got a lot of capabilities. I think 2024 is going to be the year of that America devolves. Politically, I think the 2024 election is going to be an absolute disaster for American democracy, but also geopolitically, I think the world's going to realize that America just doesn't matter anymore. And I mean, the whole world's going to realize this quickly. What happens when the South Koreans and the Japanese realize that America is nothing? Suddenly all this arrogance towards North Korea is going to have to be ratcheted down. So that's what I see for 2024. I see this being the year of America's redefinition on a global stage, and it's not going to be redefined in a better way. This is going to be a very bad year for America.
Yeah, I wish to offer us a more hopeful vision, but I can't. The United States has been in this self-delusion mode for it's really accelerated over the last 3 years. To hear these generals, Petraeus, Hodges, and others that have gone on air repeatedly said, "Oh yeah, Ukraine's going to punch through the Russian lines like hot knife through butter. They're going to be at the Crimea by August. There's no way. Russia has no good army. It's having to drag its conscripts into it forcibly. They don't have good leadership. They're running out of missiles. They're running out of rockets. They're lagging by. I mean, it's one lie after another lie after another lie. And this isn't being done to deliberately spread misinformation. They believe this stuff. They really, truly believe this stuff. And it goes back to the failure to come to grips with reality. And so the reality that's facing America now is, instead of having two political parties that are pretty stable, we're going to be in the midst of a